Yo, people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for All You Can Eat Chelsea. Got to stretch because the players ain't stretching. They ain't ready, but I'm ready. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm ready for this match. We've got a big boy episode today. I'm trying to be a little bit more upbeat today because there's no way I'm going to do a depression session like I did last night. There's just no way. At this point, I'm starting to accept my own misery, accept my own circumstances. And I'm back with the boys, the big boy panel, and we got a special guest. We're going to start with Drogbaba in the building. Terrible timing, sir, but welcome to the channel. First time on this show, and it's a pleasure to have you. Absolute pleasure. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much, Matisse. And Miz and I have been in touch for quite a while now. So when I got this, invitation to come to this, I was absolutely over the top. Not a very happy time as a Chelsea fan right now, as you said. I wish we could have done it under better circumstances, celebrating some good things that our club might do. But talking to Younes especially, I have stated it categorically that Younes was one of my inspirations when I started YouTube. And, if you see my original videos, it was exact copy of what Younes used to say, but in Hindi.
Well, did you have the long hair as well? The long hair?
Yeah. Except it was he. It was here. But yeah, I mean, starting from there to doing this with you today, it's been an absolute hell of a ride, and thanks to Chelsea for that, because this beautiful club, which is kind of in dire straits right now, has brought us together. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, you're smashing it, man. Your channel is fantastic. I've only come across you since the Miz collab, and it's brilliant to see the growth. You're doing absolutely amazing. So yeah, man, listen, guys, Younes, you've had a big week, Younes. Big 6 extra. The Potter out situation with the whole last game, and everybody's like, "Yo, have you seen what Younes said? Did you see his review? What are you gonna say, bro? Are you gonna debate this or you can eat Chelsea?" I said, "Bro, just relax, man. Relax. It's coming. It's coming." Younes, bro, talk to me. How you feeling, man? Because to be fair, since you've said what you said, it's had to be a double down because of the performance yesterday didn't help anything, did it? So how are you feeling?
Yeah, man. Look, you know how I feel, and look, we'll talk about everything that's gone down, because I get the impression a lot of people think it's got to be one or the other. When no, it can be both. It can be everyone, or it can be no one. There's many gray areas, so now we'll get into it. But personally, look, I'm all right. Yesterday was chaotic for me, man. Because
I saw your review, man.
Oh man,
you had to upload
everything
again.
went wrong, and I had to upload again. Like, the pain.
Yeah.
Every content creator knows that pain.
I've been there. Yes, we've all been there, I guess.
It's like being at uni and you get an assignment done exactly how you want, but you haven't saved it, and then the computer shut down, and you've lost your work. It's gone. It's that same feeling. So, yeah, yesterday was not good alongside the result. But yeah, overall, I'm good. Just waiting to discuss the ins and outs of this chaotic situation.
Miz, I actually don't know what you're on this Potter thing at the moment. It's a difficult situation, but we're gonna get into it. How are you feeling, bro? Because I know we're very stressed in the group chat right now. We're very stressed.
Yeah. Yesterday, someone really summed it up really nicely on my live chat, and I think some of the comments as well. They're saying that Younes is Potter out, Matisse is still Potter in, and Miz is in the fence. He's about to tip one way or the other because his mood is quite.
They were saying
chaotic.
that you were telling stories on the watch along because you were just sick of the game.
Yeah, I did. For the past 2 games, I've not been watching the second half, and I just asked people, "What do you want to know?" So they asked me how many different countries I traveled to. So we talked about that. While there was chaos going on, I was talking about how to get the visas in different countries and what locations to go to. A lot of people were taking notes down. They were like, "Oh, this is good information." So yeah, the watch along's been quite funny. But yeah, I think we'll have a very good conversation, of course. Today.
I mean,
very, very quickly, because I didn't mention this, but very quick. Drogbaba, obviously, welcome. I appreciate the kind words. Your channel's banging. Everything's looking good. Much appreciated for your words. I have to say that because, I didn't mention it. I should have. So, yeah, no, I appreciate the inspiration and whatnot. That's really that's come from a good place. So much appreciated, man.
Thank you so much, bro.
I mean, there's only one place to start, boys, and that's, I guess, with the performance yesterday. And of course, I mean, since the last time we all spoke on this panel, and obviously now Drogbaba was here as well, the performance before that was even more embarrassing against Manchester City in the Cup. And I guess the question is for a lot of people, because how far do we fall before, you know, this situation becomes untenable? Because as much as I would like to see, and I'll give my reasons for not, I say, being Potter out now, is basically because I don't know if he's going to be the solution. I'm not glowing with confidence about him as a manager in terms of his, you know, his ability to deal with the pressure, with his character in terms of his, whether he's able to handle, you know, Chelsea and everything that comes with that, big players. He seems very like calm, but almost too calm all the time, and he doesn't seem to have a range of emotions, which is what we're used to with Conte, with Mourinho, with Ancelotti even, or, you know, we have a range of emotions to work with. Tuchel. So I'm not completely 100% sold on Potter. I didn't even get an opportunity to say what manager I would have wanted after Tuchel, because it all happened so fast. I have no massive emotional attachment to Potter, so if he was to go, I wouldn't be crying in my bed sheets. But with Potter, the one thing I do want to see is the players almost be punished for what they've been on for the last couple of years, which is inconsistency, driving managers out, or being, you know, able to switch it on and switch it off, not really actually competing at Chelsea's level for the last couple of years in the league. Even when people are singing Roman Abramovich's name, they're singing Thomas Tuchel's name. They're forgetting since 2017, we haven't competed for the league. We've been awfully lucky to be playing Champions League football every single season. And this decline has been coming due to poor recruitment. And like we've spoken about, this group of players who seem to want to switch it on, switch it off whenever they please, and have been saved by, at times, Tuchel's tactics and his system for the Champions League, when really we could see that that team was not really glowing with quality going forward. They were just resolute defensively. So I guess my point is at this point, I'm like, as long as we don't get relegated, this is going to be, you know, the clear out that I've needed, because these players are basically exposing themselves. And I think until you get to that point where it's like, okay, we're literally on the cusp now of a relegation battle, we're not going to get in the Champions League anyway. We're literally only in one more competition with Dortmund. I don't see the point. And also financially, 60 million contract, that's a big blunder from the board to be spending that much. I saw Koulibaly was on 290k a week or whatever, 300k. They have splashed the cash, not just on transfer fees, but also on wages. I just don't even think it's even feasibly possible to sack him unless you absolutely have to. But I know, Younes, you're at a point where you're like, just get him out. What manager would you bring in to replace him right now?
This is the thing. In terms of like get him out right now, tomorrow, tonight, like you have to think of things logically. When it comes to the money side, I genuinely think we're minted. And I think we're at a point where if it has to come to it, the owners would be like, yeah, okay, here you go. And they'll have to own up to their mistake, because that contract was ridiculous. Everyone from the beginning agreed 5 years is naive. It's naive. On that salary, it's naive. But when you look at your points that you just mentioned, is there anyone feasible out there to get in immediately? Is it best to get in an interim, just like we've done before, see out the season, go again in the summer, scout and look at who would be the best option in the summer instead of making a rash decision now? Those things have to be taken in consideration. My worry right now is just how far will we go? How far is this going to drop? This is getting dangerous. And right now, there's no sign to say that, oh yeah, no, don't worry, it'll bounce back up. It'll be okay. I think we will pick up some wins. We have to, surely. But I said this against Fulham.
Yeah.
In my preview, I was like, yeah, no, Fulham will win, surely, because we have to. Like, it's going to get to a point we will pick up 3 points somewhere, right? But when you see that go down the way it did last night, how far will it go? It's getting dangerous. And when you actually end up near that relegation zone, we've been there once before, no matter who it is, you got to take action, even if it means you get an interim in to steer the ship up until the end of the season. We've done that before. My problem isn't just the fact that you've got to choose between manager and players. I genuinely believe there are many players in this squad that don't deserve to be here, that need to go. It's not going to happen right now. That can happen in the summer. That can't happen not even this January window, especially with some of the injuries that we have. You can't just flog the entire squad. It's impossible. But in the summer, you can transfer list. You have loads of time to talk with clubs. You have loads of time to identify replacements, targets, and whatnot. I think if it comes to a dangerous situation, which it seems like it's heading there, because there isn't a sign to tell us that Potter has at least a short-term plan to just get things back on the road. Just get things back on track, even if it means, performances aren't 100%, but you get some sort of quality out of these players, because they're not entirely 100% useless. They could be 50% useless, but there's something there. There are players here that shouldn't be in 10th. That shouldn't be dropping in the fashion that we're dropping in. You argue if we can be 6th, 7th, trying to fight for Europa Leagues, but absolutely, that's where the squad is, I believe, but to just keep going into freefall and not grasp any sort of control, it can't continue. It can't continue. And this is where I feel like when you look at the ideas, when you look at what Potter's bringing in terms of a plan, what are we seeing? I feel like it would probably be best if we don't see anything, to even get an interim in up until the end of the season, and from now start to identify someone with a plan that you can stick with and you have 100% confidence and assurances with, that you can trust, and then start replacing the squad. Because if I believe how I see it happening, this is an opinion, I could be wrong, I don't see this getting better. And then if it gets to a point in the summer where we end up getting some players that Potter wants to bring in, and we end up in a dangerous situation, and then eventually we realize, maybe he's not up for the job, and then we get rid of him down the line eventually, we'll end up in the same situation that we have been with the players that Thomas Tuchel brought in, the players that Frank Lampard brought in. I feel like it'd be best, without any sign of a change or any sign of a positive nature in this squad from Graham Potter, no grasp or control authority, make the change now. That's my opinion. That's just where I feel like it's heading. And obviously you can think otherwise.
I think before I come to Drogbaba, I think the recruitment, I'm hoping the recruitment will outlast any manager, in terms of it won't just be specifically tailored to a manager. A lot of people ask me, that's not Potter's signing, is it? That's not Potter's. Well, Potter, it's not really meant to be Potter's signing. It's meant to be for Potter's style, just like it was at Brighton. The recruitment is meant to suit his style. Same kind of recruitment team in terms of the faces that we brought from Brighton over with the RB Leipzig, Christopher Vell, etc. And then you're meant to stick to that style of manager who can keep that same group of players that are technically more secure and not as flawed. The run that we're on is embarrassing. This relegation form is why I said in my review yesterday that we need to aim for the 40-point mark. Some people laugh, but we need 5 wins. And at the moment, when you look at the games that we have, away to Arsenal, away to Liverpool, away to Manchester United, it's not just so easy to just pluck out 5 wins, especially when you're playing this badly. But there are a lot of injuries as well to take into account. I do think he made mistakes yesterday, playing 2 wing backs that are not actually wing backs. Aspie's not a wing back, Lewis Hall's not a wing back. That didn't help the team. That didn't bring anything defensively or attacking wise, because they got ripped defensively and they didn't produce anything in the final third with the overloads and the shots. Drogbaba, where are you at with Potter at the moment? How are you feeling?
I am a bit conflicted on this one, to be honest, because there are 2 school of thoughts when it comes to Chelsea fans. One, we want instant success, no matter who the manager is, what the regime is. If we are struggling, get them out of the club, get the new man in, he'll deliver us results. And it has worked for us, to be fair. Like it happened with Lampard going out of the door, Tuchel coming in. He delivered the Champions League 6 months later. It happened with Di Matteo. We gave him a contract the very next season. We saw he was out of his depth. He had to go. Then Benitez came in. He won us the Europa League. So what has happened in the last 20 years is whenever a manager has struggled to win games, he has been thrown out or has been given the sack. We have won a trophy somehow, and we have been able to put paper over the cracks, and we have not been able to solve the real issue. Hence, we have not been able to win a Premier League since last 6 years. I think it was last time when Conte was our manager in 2017, we won the league. And if we want to become an institution like a Man City or like what Arsenal is trying to be, I am not very confident where they will get. But if we are trying to become an institution like what Liverpool did with Klopp, gave him time, then we have got no option but to give a manager time. But I completely understand where Younes is coming from. We cannot have this, we cannot watch this bad run of results, week in, week out, and, be like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's give Potter the time. Let's give him till the end of the season. The summer transfer window, this winter window, next summer will be enough for us to make the team. And then we'll see where we go from there. No. Because if we miss out on the Champions League, we will not be able to, and we are already missing out on the Champions League. Top four is gone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We are not winning the Champions League. We are not winning the Champions League because it takes that X factor, that spark from the players, that responsibility, that onus that players takes on themselves, that, okay, we will do something. Because some of these players don't even seem bothered when they put on a Chelsea shirt. Like, we'll dig into the players also when we move ahead with the conversation, because I have a lot to say about Kai Havertz in this conversation. So all of this coupled with injuries, then the regime change, and the signings that were brought when Tuchel was the manager in summer. So it has been a series of unfortunate events that has culminated together, and Potter is in absolute middle of it. And it's a perfect storm that we are seeing right now. And it's previous regime's mess also that we have to take care of right now. Like, we have players who shouldn't be at the club right now. Like, what the hell Christian Pulisic is doing? Hakim Ziyech, if we don't have a plan for him, why he's still at the club? Like, we have links of him going to AC Milan, we are offering him for the other players plus transfer fee, all of that deals happening. What happens to those deals? Why those links die down after a few days or few months? Like, what happens? Like, why we approached Enzo Fernandez in the manner that we did? It made us look ridiculous.
Yeah,
absolutely stupid. Like, why? There is a rule of release clause in place. The rule is there for some reason. So first, you try to poach a player, you make him miss his 2 training sessions, and then you say, we are not willing to pay the 120 million, we'll only pay 85 million because the player is willing to join. That's because suppose if other team were trying to do this to one of our players, imagine how we must have felt. The same we felt with Thibaut Courtois when he denied, I won't come to train, I want to go to Real Madrid and whatnot. So all of these things, and coupled with like what we are seeing on the field, and I feel sympathetic for Potter, because of course I agree with Younes that we are not seeing anything on the field. The reaction is not there. He is absolutely expressionless when something goes wrong on the sidelines, on the field. He took, I think it was 80th minute when we brought on 4 substitutes last night. Before that, there was no reaction. And see, the funny part is, a player who has been with the club for 2 days, 1 training session, and he's our best player for the 60 minutes. How is that possible? What is going on?
He was statistically leading on shots, on dribbles, complete, like on literally most attacking metrics. And he's the one that came off the earliest due to the sending off. And what makes me absolutely sick is that he is not available until the 11th of February.
Yeah, he's out for a month now.
So we won't see Felix for a month.
Yes, he'll cost 1.2 million pounds.
Yeah.
This miss is costing us 1.2 million pounds for absolutely no reason.
So he won't be there.
Anyways, this João Felix deal was a lose-lose situation for us, if there is a word like that. Lose-lose, as in, if he were to work out for us, we wouldn't have paid his transfer fee because he's already extended his contract with Atletico. And if he were to fail, then he fails. Then it's another Saul situation, or a Alexander Pato situation. If you remember, in January of 2016, we got Alexander Pato, the 11 jersey. He played very well on his debut, scored that penalty, and then he was gone for the next for the rest. I clearly don't understand the mathematics, the finances, the economic side of this deal. Like, if he were that messiah for us, if he has that magic torch, or he sparkles that gold dust all over the place, and magically everything happens, and all our problems disappear after all the 3 games that he's banned for. How come we'll make his move permanent? I don't understand. Are you willing to splash another 100 million on an inside forward? Now, then we'll have 3 second strikers in our team, and Nkunku, Havertz, and João Felix. You get Dybala also, you'll get 4 second strikers. Combined all of them, you will get 2 proper strikers.
I definitely think Todd Boehly's got a lot to learn. I tried to defend his case or defend the club on the Big Six there yesterday, which was not an easy task. But we do look very stupid at the moment with the Enzo Fernandez situation, with the Aubameyang situation, potentially trying to let him go for free. If that's even legal to Barcelona after just bringing him in for around 12 million euros or whatever it is. Yeah, can't even go back. So that was another dumb deal. I think a lot of context is missed at times when people forget that we lost Rudiger on a free, we lost Christensen, we lost Werner, we lost Lukaku, we lost a lot of senior players. So we had to replace those senior players. And the narrative would 100% be, which is what I defended yesterday, is that if we didn't bring in any players and we were a little bit more cautious in the market and we did wait for our recruitment team to be put together and we only brought in, say, 2 players and promoted the rest in youth, a lot of people would be saying Todd Boehly's broke. Look at, he's not ambitious, etc. So the narrative would have been flipped. So he couldn't win in this situation because he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't understand the negotiation table. He doesn't have the contacts. He's overpaid for a lot of players. He's overpaid on a lot of wages. He's naturally going to make those mistakes because he's new into the sport and he doesn't have the experience with the recruitment team or the Marinas who, to be honest, were doing just as many F-ups anyway. And as Lewis said in his fan cam, which I completely agree yesterday, why are people singing for previous ownership? Yes, we absolutely love Roman Abramovich. What a fantastic, 20 extra years he gave us, etc. But he is also part of the reason why we're in this mess. Marina is part of the reason we're in this mess. This didn't just happen this season. Oh my God, suddenly Chelsea can't compete. Where did this come from? Suddenly we're not that good, or suddenly the recruitment's crazy and not good enough, or the recruitment's dodgy. No, this has been happening for years. So we're here now. Miz, where do you sit on this Graham Potter situation? Because he's closer now to relegation. I'm looking that way. I'm looking at Villa, Bournemouth's result, Nottingham Forest, Leicester. I'm looking at their results now. I'm not looking at Brighton and Brentford and Fulham's results anymore. So what are you thinking?
Honestly, this is a very, very complex situation. All right, I'm going to try and break this down. Bear with me, okay? I kind of had this live stream few days ago on my channel. I said, take away us fans as a stakeholder. You've got 3 stakeholders, right? You've got the owners, you've got the players, and you've got the manager, right? I'm not going to dwell too much on the previous owners because that will take another episode to talk about, right? Let's talk about it now. These new owners, they came in and they absolutely decimated the entire place. They got rid of everyone that was existing. Get out. They didn't even leave the medical staff people. They said, get out of here. They got rid of, I think, the PR guy, the medical staff guy, everyone that a player, like say, for example, you guys are part of an organization and you're going to your office for the past how many years or whatever, and one morning you go to your office, every person is new around you. Everyone that you knew and you mingled with, gone, right? I feel these owners, they should have at least kept 1 or 2 of the existing people just to help them out in the interim. Get your foot in. These new owners came in and they just went pew 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 pew, like they're ballistic. You don't
needs
know.
To be a handover.
Yeah, you guys are rookies. You should have been humbled. You should have stayed really humble on yourself. Instead, they thought they're big shot businessmen. They're very successful. They know what they're doing. And they thought, Chelsea, this is easy. Well, we're managing multinational organizations with billions and billions of net worth. Like Chelsea Football Club, this should be a singe. No, you've underestimated, my man. You should have either kept Peter Cech or Marina. I know a lot of people will say, but Peter Cech didn't want to stay. Why not convince him to stay? Why not say, Peter, stay for 6 months. Just see us through while we learn, get your expertise. Just see us through. Or Marina, right? The next thing about owners, and this is based on the articles that has been provided. So this is not me making up news, right? This is articles provided by Matt Law, David Orenstein, Fabrizio Romano, and all those big shots out there. They said the first inkling of them not appreciating Thomas Tuchel was after getting walloped by Arsenal in pre-season 4-0. Why did you wait till the 4th or the 5th game in the Premier League to sack him?
6.
Why didn't you have the balls to get rid of him right then.
It would have unsettled the fan base.
It would have been
The fan base would have gone after the ownership.
Yeah, it would have been pandemonium.
No,
I think they wanted to wait for Tuchel to kind of cause his own issue with results and team harmony, so they could have a logistical reason to be like, okay, now you need to go. Because like you're saying, are
the fans happy now though? Are the fans happy now?
Exactly. But
are the fans happy now? Who are the fans singing the name of now? Look, I know hindsight is a crazy way to look at it, but I'm just saying, if you were not happy with the man, why wait? Okay, so fine. I take your point. You waited. Why did you buy players for him?
Facts.
Why did you get Aubameyang for him? Why? You got Aubameyang, and Aubameyang played 56 minutes under Thomas Tuchel, and then Thomas Tuchel got sacked. You should not have got Aubameyang then. And now Graham Potter does not even use Aubameyang because he doesn't. That's not his player. He rather use Havertz, who is dropping stinkers after stinkers. This is the state. This is how much Graham Potter hates Aubameyang. He rather use Havertz, right? so look. So there's a whole heap of mess with the owners, and then we're not even going to how Barcelona played us in summer. How the Ligt situation went, how many other like Fofana. People get so excited about Fofana. Do you know what number CB Fofana was? Fofana's name was way down the list. Way down. Fofana wasn't one of the first ones that came up in. So the transfer, we didn't get anyone for Reece James, knowing his troubles that he has. We didn't get anyone. We didn't get anyone in midfield. Okay, so that's owners.
Owners also sanctioned the Azpilicueta renewal, which is very important to me because that was a very stupid decision. And Matisse, I knew that, and I said it at the time.
And Matisse,
we all knew last season he was regressing so quickly that he needed to be moved on in the summer. We all knew we needed a right back. We all knew, a lot of people knew that. Most people knew that. And this narrative that Azpilicueta was never going to play that many games because we're just keeping him for leadership. We're just keeping him for Yes, I understand new players need help finding new houses and understanding London and, tucking in the shirt, understanding the Chelsea way, training consistently, etc. But I didn't want to see this Ivanovic. This is worse than Ivanovic level decline.
Exactly.
He is getting skipped past and destroyed by 34-year-old, released by Corinthians Willian.
Willian looked mad. Anyway, we're not even going to go into that. I'm not even going to discuss about that game. If that was the case, why not just give Azpilicueta a different role? Don't make him a player. Give him like some sort of a HR, I don't know, help the players out role. Make a new role for this guy. Just give him the same salary. Why let him play?
HR.
Anyway, coming back to now the players and also the Azpilicueta. Who did the owners listen to there? Thomas Tuchel? Well, you sacked him. You look stupid. You listen to a manager that you sacked anyway. Okay, players. There's three categories here. You got certain players that don't want to play for this football club. It's clear as daylight. There are certain players that don't want to play for this football club. There are certain players that don't have the ability to play for this football club. And then there's the third category. They don't want to play for the football club and they don't have the ability. That's the worst one. That's the worst one, right? That's the one that they're gonna kill your football club, right? Graham Potter should have his first thing, as you do in any organization. I always try and compare with how my organization works, right? Because you got to relate it to realistic terms. The first thing a manager does when they come into a new organization, they keep their mouth shut. And they observe. They observe for the first few days. Who's doing what? What's going on here? Who's chitter-chatting behind the back? Whose character is what? Who's willing to fight for the football club? You need to identify them and you need to start reporting that. And you need to have that relate to the
I think he does know. So I think he does know who he doesn't want and who doesn't fit the vision because there was reports dropping that.
Who are they though? Let's name names. Let's actually be proper today.
Aubameyang.
Okay. He doesn't start. He doesn't start.
He's
Ziyech doesn't start.
Definitely not part of it. I would hope to God that the way that we're trying to play the game and the way we're trying to play football, Aspilicueta is not part of that either.
That was a mistake by the board.
Koulibaly looks awful.
Well, he had a meeting with
can't-
Aspi the other day, so
That's
No
the
problem.
thing, Younes.
And he had the meeting with Aspi.
So he's having
Yes.
he's having the meeting with the senior players, the players that are apparently meant to turn this around, and some of those players.
And they're the players are the ones that don't want to play for this football club.
Some of them are the reason why we're in this mess. They're the problem. Even Kovacic is regressing. He can't pass. What is going on there?
I'll tell you right now.
He's plateaued.
I think Kovacic is one of those players who is hurting the fact that Thomas Tuchel left. He's one of those players.
Well,
he
was
doesn't want to play for
reportedly him and Mendy, isn't it? Him and
Yeah,
Mendy.
he doesn't want to play for Graham Potter. I know. I just have this inkling. He does not want to play for Graham Potter. He's over it.
you see his performance for Croatia, for example, right? And you see him here.
Ziyech.
We're talking basic.
Ziyech was
basic passes, runs into spaces.
Ziyech was brilliant for Morocco in the World
Exactly.
Cup.
And look, and the reason why I said to Matisse, let's name players, because people are now throwing out player power. People are throwing out these player power. Who? These players don't have no power. I would not listen to any of these players. You're telling me these players are running the show in the dressing room? They can't run nothing.
They can't run a bar.
They can't run nothing. So, Ziyech, he doesn't start. He should not even bother. Aubameyang, he doesn't even come off the bench. Sometimes he's not even squad. So he's already abolished. Let's be real. Let's look at the starting lineup against Fulham.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually be real. From the top, Havertz. Is that the player that you want to have in the football club?
No.
Probably not. Mason Mount. Now it gets really uncomfortable, doesn't it? Now you don't know what to answer anymore. I'll tell you right now, you probably need to think very deeply. Right now, I don't think he falls into that, doesn't have that capability to play for Chelsea Football Club. Yeah. Now, you're going to get very upset with that.
These two players should be on the bench right now. They're starting by default because Lukaku and then Havertz default start, and then because of Aubameyang, Havertz default start, because of potentially we need to play Mason Mount into form, default start. These players should be on the bench.
Why not play Chukwuemeka instead of Mason Mount? Why not? You have an option. I can understand Havertz. I get it. Maybe you don't want to use Aubameyang. David Datra Fofana is too young. Lukaku's not in the club. You're stuck with him. But what about Mount? Do you have to persist with Mount? He can come off the bench and give you some impact. Why are you persisting with him? What about Chukwuemeka? Chukwuemeka came on and he literally put in two nice progressive passes through the middle and found Havertz, who ended up screwing up anyway. So, look.
But both of those two, by the way, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Drogbaba. You was doing a watch-along. I was doing a watch-along. I think Miz was doing a watch-along. Two passes that were not played in that game to Felix that literally ripped my heart and soul out of my chest and made me so angry. These guys, yes, Mount at one point did a nice little 1-2 and a whipped ball into Felix, which was offside. That's the only positive attacking moment I can think of from him. Kai Havertz, it's all a blur at this point. But Felix, so clearly, like you said, after 2 days, the best attacker on that pitch, with a bit of first minute or two nutmegging someone, creating an opportunity for Kai. He was the only person taking shots. And these two failed to play the ball. What is wrong with them and why will they not play this pass? I genuinely think they're actually scared. I just don't understand how you can miss that pass. How can you decide to hold on to the ball and run it out of play? How can you decide to pass it back to Aspi? The ball is so clear there. I just don't get it.
It's the confidence of these players is at an all-time low. If you remember, Mount made a brilliant run between the two centre-backs. Havertz could have played him in, but he decided to take the ball to the sideline and got, shrugged off and the ball went for a throw. And I've lost my absolute bearings at that moment. Like if you go and see my watch along, I was like jumping out of my chair. Like these players are too afraid to fail. Like as if we are not failing enough already. But they cannot play a straight ball. They are too afraid to play a vertical pass. Koulibaly, as soon as he gets the ball, he's so panicked. He is under so much pressure. All he does is clear the ball out. And I don't understand this. If we don't have good players on the wall, why are we trying to build from the back? I don't understand this. Cucurella. He can't even control the ball. In Brighton, he was one of their best players last season. What has happened? Why suddenly these players?
Nobody's playing well.
Confidence is gone. These
And
players
this
are not there mentally.
And this is where I want to say that final point. So I talked about the owner, the player, and this is where I think we have to seriously talk about Graham Potter. I know a lot of people are like, trust the process, stick with them, get rid of the players. Guys, let me make it very clear, right? If we lose if we don't get 3 points against Crystal Palace, I'll be forced to say Graham Potter out. Because how many games have we played? 9 games, 7 losses, 1 draw.
Yeah.
I think it's 1 win in last 10 games or something.
1 win in last 10 games. Let's
And
take
Younes said in his review that he's lost the dressing room, which is
no. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why I agree with Younes. The match we played against Fulham, it was chaotic. You got Chalobah who lost his head. You've got Kepa who's coming back to his old Kepa forms. You've got Aspie, who's always been Aspie. Koulibaly, shaky. Kovacic, not even bothered. Don't know what's going on. Mason Mount, you could have just pulled him out from the team and we could have played with 1 less man and it would not have made any difference. It really would not have made any difference, besides the fact that he took that free kick, which ended up being a goal. But besides that, it would not have made a difference.
I didn't even mention that goal in my review for Koulibaly because I just...
It was a fortuitous one. Let's be honest. It was a fortuitous one. Yeah. Kai Havertz is just honestly starting to be a nonsense player, right? So for me, Graham Potter, as Drogbaba was saying, 1 out of 10 wins, and as Younes was saying, lost the dressing room. He has, unfortunately, he has. These players don't respect him. I'm sorry to say this. These players.
Why does this keep repeating?
This happens.
This happened with Tuchel also.
This happened with Tuchel. And then my counter argument, right? Even though I agree with Younes that he probably has lost the dressing room because look how many every single player is either regressing, not performing, or never even performed in the first place, right? So you look at Kova, can't pass. Trevor Chalobah's coming to the team now. Awful, horrendous, rash, missed timing tackles. And we can keep going through them. Kepa now is starting to play poorly. Mendy's injured. So now Kepa for the last, couple of games, 2 out of the last 3, you could say is making mistakes. So
this is reminiscent of Lampard era as well. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Individual mistakes after individual mistakes after individual.
So I get the point that you're making in terms of nobody's playing for him. But we've had this situation before with other managers. And that's why I go back to the manager is making blunders in starting 11s, tactical errors in game, or not making the changes quickly enough. Doesn't look like he has the character to deal with the situation or is too calm. And you mentioned that when you went to the training session, he seems to almost standoffish with the players. He doesn't have the authority, that he doesn't command it. And I'm not surprised because he doesn't have the CV. So some players are just immediately not going to respect him anyway. Yeah. And they're not going to see him as an equal. But these players, they're showing their true colors this season and they don't have the manager to bail them out. Just like in previous Chelsea regimes where we used to have these top quality world-class players and we used to have the Avram Grants and the VS Boases, and the top players were so good that they would bail out these managers and they would keep the standard because they were just that good. These players now are not able to keep the standard because they have shown their true colors. Physically, they're not capable. Technically, some of them are not capable. Mentally, they're not capable. So across the whole board, this squad is questionable. Look at the way João Felix comes into that team, immediately outshines everybody. That is an alarm bell ringing to say that this team is really poor in terms of its technical deficiencies. So Potter may have lost the dressing room, but I don't particularly rate the dressing room that highly that I want it won back. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want a manager bounce to come and save the dressing room so everybody can go, oh, look, these players are great. You see, look at all of them doing well. Look, we're back. No, fuck off. We're not back.
But Matisse,
I don't want to be back.
It's not realistic to get rid of 25 players.
Todd Bowie, do you know what? I didn't think it was realistic. Not 25, because I don't think it takes 25, but I do think 10 or 8 or whatever, 7 has made.
You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that in one window. You won't do that in one window.
I think 7 or 8 of them or 6 of them have polluted it so much that it's almost like you've contracted a virus and it's spread, and now it's starting to seep into the other players. I'm not going to bring Sterling into this. Hell no, no chance. But I think it's very important that, yes, you might say it's not realistic, but Todd Boehly has shown already in this is to tenure that anything that wasn't realistic is now realistic, because this guy has done nothing but chaos since he's come in. So I don't know what his plans are for these exits, and just how he's not Mourinho. He's not looking for market value like what we used to. Oh, we have to sell at this certain price. So for me, this is our best chance to get rid of them. If we don't get rid of them, we're definitely not going anywhere, Miz. If we don't get rid of these players that we're talking about, that we know we need to move on, we're not going anywhere. Because a new manager can come in, we might scrape top 4 again on the last day. He's not winning the league with this lot.
Here's a reality check for all of you guys. I'll tell you right now. We are not getting a single player out. I'm telling you right now. The amount of injuries that we... No, not now. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about the summer. Yeah, but by summer, how many lots? How far do you want to go down, Matisse? How far? Are you happy to be 17? Are you happy to be 18?
Bro, Younes, if we don't get relegated and we finish 15th, what's the difference between 15th and 11th?
I mean, is that where the level is now? Bro, 40 points.
This is bro.
Is that the level?
Bro, these guys, they have to pay for their sins, bro. They have to.
No. And this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I agree. And they have to. And I'm not saying go up against a process and trying to build long term and trying to come out of the cycle that we've been in for years, despite its success. We can't just erase that. 25 trophies, 25 years. That's key. But the mannerism in that we did it, absolutely. It's good to look long term with a manager that has an idea of how to do it. Graham Potter, as I said this on day one, when he got announced, I remember being away and I remember my words. I hope this job is not too big for him. The first day he rocked up, I was like, I hope, let's see what happens. I hope it's not too big for him. I think it's too big for him. When you look at City, they got him Pep. You know to trust Pep. Here you go, mate. What do you want? Done. Right? Just give him what he wants. Klopp had a CV in terms of what he'd accomplished at Dortmund. Even Tuchel had a CV when you think of being able to see what he'd done at Dortmund, managing an ego, not just an ego, egos at PSG. Poch right now would be better qualified because of the weight, because of his experiences at PSG and what he had to handle and that he can bring to a job. Now, personally, would I want Poch? I think he'd end up better than this, but probably not the long-term solution, if I'm being completely honest. This is where we are. These players have to pay. Absolutely. And this cannot be forgotten. And this is where I agree, Matisse. They've shown their true colors. Many of them have shown their true colors. And in the summer, they need to be dealt with. But when you look at what Potter brings to the table, is he going to provide a solution? Are we going to have to wait for players like Felix to come in and do everything? Because to come in and say that Felix has understood everything about Graham Potter in one training session is a lie. He's come in and done things how he plays. Natural. Yeah. It's purely natural ability.
He's come in
with freedom, mate. You're playing up front, or you're playing.
Younes, I don't even think he knows how to speak English. I don't even
exactly.
But can I ask this, Younes? What happens if you bring in a new manager, say a manager of caliber, and the results still don't get better? Because it's not a guarantee. This squad is starting to show that they might just be untouchable to the point where.
But this is the thing.
And my danger is that you bring in a manager halfway through the season with no preseason, with the injuries, right? Because if we're saying we're going to sack him now, that's what we're talking about, right? Because I'm talking about getting through to the end of the season. We're talking about if we lose to Palace, we need to sack him. So that's fair. That's fair point, because we're in a horrendous position. We're in relegation form. If this was the other ownership, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You would have been gone by now. If you bring in another manager with this injury record, my thing is right now, my breaking point is let's try and get to the gap. You know, that gap that we have between Liverpool and Fulham, I think it is, between the 23rd of January and 4th of February or something like that. That's the gap for Potter to train. That's the gap for him to get the players that he's not using and put them at the back of the queue, and put the players that he's going to use at the front of the queue, make bold decisions, try and put together some sort of style imprint. That's his gap. That's probably the best gap that he's ever had at Chelsea, because the World Cup doesn't count because players were gone. So I'm looking at that gap as my point of action, of change. If you get rid of the manager now and you bring in the caliber of manager you're talking about, and the results don't improve because of the context of no injuries, maybe a bit better. I'm expecting to pick up more points than 0, but the performances don't really go too high up. The injuries are still there. We're still what now for that manager? because that's putting him in a terrible position. I'd rather at least say that you're going to give him a pre-season. That's what most managers deserve, something that Potter still hasn't had. And João Felix is officially his first signing. People talk about, oh, you know, he's not being backed, or he doesn't have any say, or he doesn't want this player. None of the players from the previous window are his. So his first signing as manager is officially João Felix. And I like João Felix. Badiashile as well. Yeah. You know, we haven't seen him yet. I think we should see him against Palace.
Why wasn't he put on yesterday?
Maybe
should have started.
Maybe not ready. I don't know if he's, you know, sometimes players when they come, that you assess them, you say not quite ready for Premier League football. Let's teach you
as if the other players are killing it.
But they're not exactly. But the issue I have, the issue I have now is throwing players in when they're not ready, jeopardizing their Chelsea career, because now they make mistakes, fan base gets onto them. Omari Hutchinson, a classic example, comes on against Manchester City, doesn't play that well. People are already calling him overhyped or not good enough or whatever. And then the cycle just continues. Confidence drops, new players already. That's basically the cycle just continuing. So are you not afraid of that, Younes? Like in terms of new person comes in and it doesn't give you that new manager bounce that you're talking about, because these players look that toxic.
This is where, and this is my last point because I have to shoot after this, so apologies. But this is where we have to be realistic, absolutely. This is why I'm saying to sack him immediately tonight, tomorrow. Is that going to happen without a plan in place? Is an interim going to be the way just to steer the ship for the season, depending on if we all think the results are going to continue to plummet? This is the key factor here. If we're actually going to end up in a relegation fight, or if everyone is convinced, because you can only see things in hindsight once it's done. It's risk analysis. Are we going to take that risk? If we actually think we're going to get there, a change needs to be made. On a business level, a change needs to be made, even if it's an interim. And then we start thinking from now up until the summer, who is best qualified that we can go for, even if it means to go and buy out a contract like we've done before, to bring in someone that we can trust with a plan. You know, that's going to be the risk analysis, as I've said. That's going to be the decision that has to be made.
Do you know Potter? We broke his contract as well. He's one of the
we did.
One of the highest paid managers.
Paid manager, £22 million to break his contract to bring him here.
It's naivety.
Then 60 million for 5 years, is it?
60 million for 5 years.
Plus his coaching staff, assistants, head of recruitment, all those people come with him. So sacking him is, for me, another indication of this ownership falling down in my estimation. That would be a huge L that the manager you bring in, the first manager you bring in, not only do you sack an elite manager, but because of course the relationships are fragile and whatever, you then bring in your manager. You don't even keep them for a year on a massive contract and you sack him. That's a huge blunder. Huge.
And this is where, last point, two things. You either own up to that, you take it on the chin and go, right, yeah, I made a mistake, or you see it through and you either become a hero or you become a villain.
Yeah.
It's a risk. But insane. Guys, I've got to shoot. Apologies, very, very sorry. Drogbaba, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do going forward as well. We'll definitely link up again. And guys,
pleasure, bro. See you soon.
We'll talk to you lot soon.
Okay,
yeah.
Nice one. See you soon, people.
Take care.
That would be a massive. I mean, just Drogbaba, just the severity of the contract, the amount of money we're talking about. What would be your confidence levels in the owner if they actually did have to sack Potter, say 5-year contract, and we're talking about you're sacking him within the first year of his contract, before we've even got to the year mark?
I think at least, like, what would happen, in my opinion, is we scored at least 1 goal yesterday. I think we'll definitely get relegated, even if we get Zidane in. I'm pretty sure, because as Ms. rightly has said, there are many problems behind the scenes also, and we only see the final results, what is happening on the pitch at the end of the day when players are playing. There is so much uncertainty at the club, and the culture has changed. The transition is happening as we speak. The players don't want to play for this club. Many of these players don't want to play for this club. Do you remember what happened to Christensen at the end of the last season? He was making simple and obvious errors. And after a certain point, Tuchel decided, okay, it's better not to play him because he has his heart set in Barcelona already. On the other end, we had Rudiger, who had already everything sorted out with Real Madrid, way before the transfer window, but still he was putting in those 2-footed tackles at the very last day when I think we were playing whom we were playing. Barkley scored that last minute winner in the last game of the season in the Premier League. I don't remember
I can't
whom
remember
we
the
were
team, but
playing.
I know, the moment you're talking about.
So he was doing till the last minute. So you have to identify which players are willing to play for the club. Do we have to do something that we did in the 1920 season? Like, because we had a transfer when we had to get in players like Reece James, Tomori, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham. Oh my God, I have so missed that guy right now. He would have given his life for Chelsea. That number 9 curse was not there when Tammy was a striker, right? He was the last striker who scored 10 plus goals for us in a Premier League season, and that was Lampard's first
It's
season.
so sad though that we're saying we miss moments and eras of us not even we're not winning the league at this moment. We're just we're still challenging for top 4, and we're going back to that.
The 1920 season is very close to my heart. Lampard's first season was very close to my heart because
same.
every day, every match
season.
day, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
The kids are going to play today. Let's see
yeah.
what lineup Lampard is going to field today.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Gilmore was a
revelation.
didn't
feel like that much pressure that season.
Yes, and Billy Gilmore was a revelation that season, if you remember that FA Cup game.
Right at the end.
Fabinho and all of those things. Barkley scoring a screamer and whatnot. Pedro and Willian turning up, and that
Giroud as well.
performance.
Beat Arsenal away, beat Tottenham away.
And
at least that team, again, like you're mentioning, that team showed elements of Chelsea. And that's why you're going back to it, right? Not because we won the league, which I mentioned, not because we dominated, because we showed elements of this season.
And the problem
we've shown
is
no elements of being Chelsea.
Yes, and one problem is that many Chelsea fans don't acknowledge is that this team, time and again, has given us that false sense of belief. Okay, something is going to happen, and nothing happens. Like, for example, that Pulisic performance in that lockdown period. That was the best that we've seen him perform. And we are still waiting for that lockdown Pulisic to turn up. When will lockdown Pulisic turn up?
Injured now, isn't it? For how many months?
Even if he's given a consistent run of games, he's not been able to perform up to that level. It is down to system, the manager, the tactics. I don't know. But personally, what I feel, if you're a good player, if you're a world-class player, or if you have potential to be world-class, you can play in any system and any position. Not like if you're a forward, you are played in defense and then you struggle, then everything like that. Our midfield has not been refreshed for last 5 seasons. Like the same, we have same Kante, we have same Jorginho, Kovacic. Kante is not fit anymore. Kovacic has plateaued. Jorginho has regressed. He's finished for me. Loftus-Cheek, we've tried in every position possible. We are still not able to find out what his real position is, where he plays his best football. And I feel for that guy, but it's down to the manager and the system, and to him as well. Whenever he starts to play well, he gets injured. So it's not a simple solution to sack manager and to expect, okay, if you get in, goose hitting will be will be waiting, okay, in the wings, okay, when they will contact me again. but we cannot keep on doing this again and again, in my opinion.
The reason why certain, like, I completely understand both spectrums here, right? The reason why I see the people that are slowly edging towards the manager being out is because how far, like I hear what Matisse said, 40 points. For me, that's
tongue in cheek, but literally that is the aim, isn't it, at this point?
Like, for me, that's madness to start thinking like that for Chelsea football.
I think we have to take it one step at a time. For me, 40 points first.
Okay, so let's say so let's say it is 40 points for argument's sake. 40 points. Let's try and get there. Are we confident that Graham Potter, like, as great as he has done in Brighton Football Club, and I admired him for Brighton Football Club, but Brighton and Chelsea is not the same thing. Okay? It's not the same thing. At Brighton, he didn't get fans like the clips that are going out right now running after the game saying, Potter, hang in there, we believe in you, it's the players. At Brighton, no one gave a 2 cents. Like, when the match finished, he went home, no one really bothered him. At Chelsea Football Club, do you know how many millions of supporters Chelsea have across the world? Globally. This is different fish altogether, right? This is, I heard someone say in Big Six, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Saeed. Saeed takes the piss most of the times, but I think this is something that he said quite legitimately, spot on. He said, you don't go from Brighton to Chelsea. You go from Brighton to maybe a Spurs first.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Spurs. And then you sort of build yourself up. Like, for me, as great as he has done, I'm just worried because
I'm worried as well. I'm worried.
One win out of 10, and then here comes the Palace one, and you don't get a victory here as well.
Liverpool away after that.
And then Liverpool away.
There is a break. There has to be a breaking point. I agree.
There's got to be.
Because if it is a legit relegation battle, and we are too close to that zone, and we don't pick up, he has to leave. Obviously, he has to leave. We're not getting relegated for this man. Again, like I said, there is not enough emotional attachment to him in the fan base, and there's no need to have that because he's not done anything here, and he also doesn't have the charisma at the moment. That's why I say I don't care about that stuff. But if you're talking about wider collective fan base support, there are a lot of people that do care about that stuff. You coming over to the fans at the end of the game, the away fans will appreciate that. You giving a little bit more vavavoom in the press conference, the online fans will appreciate that. So if you don't give those intangibles to fans along the way when you're going through a mess, you are going to not have the wider fan base support. So in saying that, and I've brought it up many weeks now on this show, he cannot afford to get himself into that danger zone because then he will have to be removed. Exactly. Regardless of whether it is solely his fault, regardless of how much we hate the squad in terms of the way that they're moving at the moment, he will have to go by default, just like Mason and Kai and
what will happen is
Aspie are starting by default.
I think what will happen is, till the time if we were to sack him, which I don't think will happen, but if we were to get the sack, by that time the players, our main players who are out due to injury, will come back. Like Reece James will be back.
That's why I'm hanging on to that gap for them to get back fitness.
Chilwell will be back, and I hope we sign a midfielder. Now we are after Caicedo. I hope we get someone in the midfield that can give us that much needed ignition and whatnot. So what will happen is then the team will start to play better football, and then it will be again pinned down on Potter. Okay, he was a bad manager. He did not have a plan. The team was good all along. And then we'll again have that false sense of belief. Okay, this team is not that bad as we think it is. I don't want that to happen. I want Potter to have a fair chance. I want him to have a full, healthy team, because initially he was doing good with that team. He got us to the Champions League round of 16. Reece James was playing really good. And I don't get this. Like, in the first initial days, Aubameyang was his main striker. Like, we had, Miz and I had that chat. He was so busy. He's running in the spaces. He's making himself available. 2 bad games he's had after the World Cup, and the fan base has turned his back on.
Yeah,
I don't understand this. I still believe Aubameyang deserves a fair chance. People might hate me for this, but I still think he deserves a run of games, at least 2 to 3 consistent games he has done
for him under Potter.
Yeah, it's done. And behind the scenes, we don't know what happens now.
I think with Aubameyang, what frustrates me is that, because it's not always fault, right? He's not getting any service. You look at the 2 balls that weren't played in behind to Felix, the 0 shots on target for him, or the 0 shots in the first half against City for Aubameyang in the game at the Bridge, I think it was. You can understand why. Wow, everybody just got removed. That's what it looks like. Aubameyang is tapping into the system.
I hijacked your podcast.
So as I was saying with Aubameyang, it's understandable. It's understandable why he hasn't worked out, because we're not a team that create a lot of clear-cut chances. So of course, any striker that relies upon chances is not going to score goals if they don't get opportunities because of the way the team is either set up. But a lot of people said Tuchel is not getting the best out of the forwards. We're not creating a lot of chances because of Tuchel. And I don't like to play this game, but we've switched to a back 4. We're now under a more progressive manager in a lot of people's eyes, and we're still not creating chances. We're still not getting more goals out of the team. So that's something very important to highlight. Very important. But with Aubameyang, I never wanted him because I knew kind of this situation could happen, is that he doesn't have the fundamentals to bring anything else to the team other than finishing, and we won't create enough chances for him, which is why I don't want that type of striker. And it's the same thing would have happened with Ronaldo.
But okay, I get your point. But what extra Havertz is providing on the field?
It's true, yeah. Like, I mean, well, off the ball, they will say that. To be fair to Kai, he's tracking back, he's winning tackles.
In what manner Kai Havertz is better than Aubameyang right now? I just want to know that. Yeah. Like what Aubameyang can't do, what Havertz is doing.
I would just go for Fana, so I get the pressing and I might get some goals.
I'm all for playing young players. I'm all for putting a fresh team out there.
This is why Aubameyang's not part of the project, so I don't see the point anymore. We're not playing for anything. I don't see what you're going to get out of it.
And one more point, Matisse. Matisse, one more point that people that you mentioned that we were not creating enough. People used to say that because of Tuchel. I disagree with that point, because when we had a full team available for the first half of the season last season, in first 7 Premier League games, we scored 29 goals. Like we scored 27 or 29 goals, something like that. And then we smashed Juventus 4-0. And from that match onwards, when Kante got injured and Reece James shortly after Chilwell got injured, it all went downhill because our system was built around wing backs and Kante being fit. In last 43 games, only one game Chilwell, Reece James, 44 if you add Fulham game also. In last 44 games, this is a massive stat. Only one game James, Kante and Chilwell have started together. So either you move on from Kante, you identify his replacement, you identify a style of play. If your team is too dependent on these 3 players, then you're bound to implode somewhere down the line, because these players are irreplaceable. And you don't have a plan B. The same case was there with Tuchel. We somehow, made our way to 2 cup finals, lost in penalties. And that Real Madrid second leg performance, that was all heart. That was nothing tactical about it. There was, game plan and everything were there. But
maybe some complacency from Real Madrid as well. Yeah.
It was pure heart and grit type of performance from Chelsea, which I have not seen this season.
A lot of capitulation. The other side of the argument people want to bring up is this run looking worse than it could be if you put the context in? So I'm going to go through the results, right? We lost to Arsenal at home, top of the league team, clear of us at the moment. Lost to Manchester City away. Lost to Newcastle away. Aston Villa's a friendly, so no one cares. Beat Bournemouth, drew with Nottingham Forest, lost to City at home, lost to City away, lost to Fulham away. Half of those games are against City and Arsenal and Newcastle, right? 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
4,
the
5.
Second game that you mentioned, the League Cup game,
and we played quite well. Yeah, actually played quite well.
We were abysmal in front of the goal. We should have finished our chances.
Yeah. So
and we don't finish our chances.
So we're gonna get so the only reason why I'm doing this is because I wanna just provide as much balance as possible, right, for the ins and outs. Arsenal, we were awful. City away, we actually went toe to toe with them, in my opinion. We just didn't take our chances. Newcastle away, from what I can remember, we got completely dominated. Bournemouth, cool win. Nottingham Forest, I can't even remember anymore. That draw. Man City at home, actually went toe to toe with them again. Man City away, battered. Fulham away. Last night, a lot of individual errors. I didn't like the lineup, but a lot of individual errors, both going forward and backwards, with the red card and the poor tackling, the stupid individual mistakes, giving the ball away. I don't think any manager should have to teach his team how to play 5-yard passes without giving the ball away. This run is a lot worse when you don't go into the context. And I still don't believe Graham Potter's a bad manager. I do believe that he's making mistakes. I do believe that he has a character that is off-putting for a lot of people. I do believe that he could not end up being the final boss, the manager that seals the Premier League, the manager that seals the big trophies. I do believe that, yes, those questions are there. But I don't believe that he's a bad manager. I don't believe that he can't coach a team. Tactically, we know he's very flexible. He's been able to adapt game to game. I know that it's a big step up. There is a massive injury crisis, but I do believe with the players that he's got, he should be doing a lot better. But when you go through that patch, for me, there's still ample reason to give him after that gap, because I want to see after that gap, when we do have Tottenham, we have Wolves, we have West Ham, we have Fulham. Go on, you have to go on a run. You have to. There's no Man City there. There's no Arsenal. There's no Newcastle. There's no top 3 teams in the league. You have to go on a run after that gap, and you've got the training time as well. And you have to start playing players that deserve to play on that pitch. You have to have figured it out by now that playing the same players over and over again, not starting your Carneys, Chukwuemeka's, is not working. You have to, in that gap, establish some sort of authority. In this window, you have to get that midfielder the board. You have to get that right back. And then we go again in that second half period. And if we still are doing this in that period, then cool. I'm going to start, because then we're going to be in a relegation battle. But for me, when I look at the context of everything, I can't say that sacking him is A, going to fix anything, and B, is fully deserved with this group of players, the way that they're playing. I'm not saying that he's not at fault, but I'm just saying, I think, sacking him, which is why I would disagree with Younes. I think right now sacking him is the wrong way to go. And I think it is a get out of jail free card for these players. And I don't think this is deserved, personally. I don't. Even though the run is horrendous, right? When you just say 9 losses or 8 losses out of 10 or whatever.
I don't think you've done complete justice on that context, Matisse. I hear what you're trying to say, trying to create balance, but have a look at that run of games, right, that you've listed out. Newcastle, let's point that out. That had Conor Gallagher and Mason Mount. Who's choosing that too as the inside forward?
100%.
Right? Yeah. We did. I distinctly remember that game. We did not do anything that game. It wasn't as if Newcastle were tremendously prime Barcelona or anything like that. They were
getting overrun in the midfield in that game.
Yeah, they're a good team, but we didn't show anything to put up a fight. They beat us 1-0. Looking back at Arsenal, okay, Arsenal is an anomaly. We put that aside. They absolutely dominated us. It should have been more than 1-0. No problems. Man City, the league 2-0. Okay, we should have done something. But the other 2-0 in Carabao Cup.
2-0 in the Carabao Cup.
We should have done something. We should have done something.
We went toe to toe. The one at the weekend last was the bad one. That was
the bad one. Hammered. Nottingham Forest, we all know very well. Nottingham Forest second half should have won. Let's be honest.
I can't
Nottingham
remember.
Forest was
genuine. I can't remember what happened in that game.
What's that Gibbs? Ben
Gibbs White.
Gibbs White. He had a shot that was off the bar. Obviously, Serge Aurier scored. There was another header by someone else.
You're saying we should have lost that game?
We should have lost that game.
Yeah,
we should have lost that game. Second half, I remember Matisse. I think you might have had the red light on the review.
Probably.
We should have lost that game. Bournemouth, we looked good up until
last 15 minutes were all Bournemouth.
Yeah, up until Drogbaba, up until Reece James got injured. As soon as Reece James got injured and he got taken out, it was all Bournemouth from there on. Fulham 100% deserved to win. 100%. In the first half, João Felix, yes, very good opportunity made for Havertz. We didn't lash that in. But Fulham had a shot, which was Chalobah's mistake. They took a shot, hit the post. Willian cut in, scored. There was another from a set piece where they could have scored. They should have been 3-1 up at first half. They really should have. So to apply that context and to have a little justice on that, I feel like you look at the scores as well, Matisse. You look at the scores and the lack of goals and how many we conceded. At least make us difficult to beat. At least make us hard to beat. At least turn some of those losses to a draw. Had some of those losses been draws and maybe a couple of those draws as wins, out of these 10 games, had it been 50% wins, 5 wins, 5 losses, I think the fan base can still trust the process. I think the fan base says, do you know what? It's topsy-turvy. It's not pretty, but I think we can see what Graham Potter's trying to do. The fact that it's 1 win in 10, am I a fool?
But Miz, it comes down to the players also, na? Have you seen us playing with intensity apart from that 45 minutes in the first half of Bournemouth? Apart from those 45 minutes, have you seen us play with any kind of intensity? Maybe City first half was also pretty good.
City first half was good. Yeah,
but apart from that, in any of the games have you seen us play with? I don't care about the result at this point of time. I just want us to play with purpose and with some intensity. We haven't. We don't have that.
Who's responsible for intent? Like who's motivating? Like who's meant to motivate me in my life? Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree that manager has to take the blame for it. But if you see that 4-0 loss against City in the FA Cup, Kovacic was literally shying away from tackles. He was, I don't know, was feeling afraid to get stuck in, or I don't know what has happened. We failed to show any kind of physicality.
He doesn't want to play for Graham Potter. It's simple. It's very simple. He doesn't want to play for Graham Potter.
Get these players out. I love Kovacic. I love Kovacic. I absolutely love the guy. But we have to. I completely agree with Matisse. If we get a new manager, if we get a new set of people who are taking the hold of what is happening on the field, these players will get a free run again. No questions asked.
And if they don't turn it around under a new manager, then we've just paid out 60 million for this manager plus the release clause. We've hired another manager. God knows how much that costs. Who is this new manager? Still, we need names. And if they don't turn it around, that's another manager then people are going to throw under the bus. And this cycle just keeps going on. So for me, the season is basically almost done anyway. For me, at least Potter needs to stand for something. And if he stands for the clear out and he then doesn't live up to it, but at least you could say he got rid of the players and we had a fresh start with a much younger average age of a squad in terms of let's get that average age from 28 down to 23 or 24. And then he can say, or we could say, okay, that wasn't a complete waste of time. We transitioned under him in terms of our squad and he just wasn't good enough. But to get rid of him before the clear out, and then for the new manager to come in and change who he likes and who he doesn't, and then certain players that we know that need to leave is probably now favoured and they end up staying. And for me, it has to he has to be in an untenable position. He has to be in an untenable position.
For example, we have 100 million pounds worth of goalkeepers in this club and we can't keep clean sheets.
Yeah.
It's mad. It's mad. And look at how many CVs. How many CVs have we bought?
Yes. We have replaced our CVs. Like Christensen left, Rudiger left. We've got Fofana, Koulibaly. Thiago Silva will leave. We've got Badiashile. So 3-4-3 we've got. But Koulibaly is not up to it. Fofana has had a poor injury record, had one decent season with Leicester, and we were like, okay, pay 75 million for that guy.
It's and just quick conclusion on what both of you guys were saying. So let's say, okay, let's all come to an agreement, right? Let's all come to an agreement. 40 points. 40 points is what we're going for, and we are risking it all to hopefully get to that mark. Where do you, at one point, both of you, I'm just saying, where you get a bit iffy that, oh my God, this 40 points seems, because what are we on, 25? 15 points needed? At one point,
15, 5 wins.
At what point do you start
saying... guys, we are big too negative. I think once Reece James and everyone is back, 40 points is not that big of a deal.
I hope the thing about Reece James is he came back last time. He lasted 45 minutes. So I can't...
Again, that is not Potter's fault. Who's giving that heads up? The medical team? Who is in charge of the medical
Definitely not Potter's fault, but where is the urgency on getting a right back in on the 13th of January?
This has to be done this month, and that's why I want the transfer window to be concluded. I want that gap, and then we reassess it from February. Need to sort out that position because Aspie's getting destroyed. But yeah, I think for me, once we get some of these players back, I do expect things to be improved. I think a massive part of our chance creation under Tuchel was Chilwell and James, both of which are out. So this team have had problems for a while, even under previous management in terms of chances created, being one-dimensional, not, all of these things. So like I said, for me, his position needs to be untenable because I don't think the season is worth.
Do we have a
I don't think the season is worth
Livramento?
Bro, he doesn't even play.
He doesn't play.
He doesn't play.
No, he's been injured for too long. He's also now had a massive injury.
finished.
Are you guys following Dujon Sterling at Stoke? Because I haven't.
No. He's not the guy.
He's not the guy. He's
not good enough. We need to buy. We need to buy.
Let's
wrap up. It's been a mad episode. Drogbaba, absolute pleasure. Special guest.
Thank you so much.
Please let the people know where to find you, man. What an episode.
top.
I mean, it was one hell of a conversation, and I think we could have spoken for another 3-4 hours because there is not one or two problems that is, that has led us to this point, to be honest. So let's see what happens. I hope, I still have that Chelsea fan inside me, that 14-year-old Chelsea fan inside me still thinks that we can do something in this season. And I think we can at least, challenge for the Europa League places once our players are back and, they are fit and whatnot. But right now it doesn't look like this. But as Chelsea fans, we need to keep the belief, guys. Come on. It's all doom and gloom right now. But, let's put some belief. Let's back the manager and let's hope our team, turns up for the big games. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matisse, for this opportunity.
Pleasure.
It was lovely talking to you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Do you know what? Yeah, this is like you just fit straight in. I'm not gonna lie, you fit straight in. It felt like a normal episode. It didn't even feel like we was having like somebody from the outside coming in. It just felt like a very, very normal episode. Very much all you can eat. So you slotted in perfectly. Miz, let the people know where to find you, bro. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, man. The other side of the coin. Look, all I'm gonna say is that I've been so patient. I actually have been, but these losses are now it's like I'm bleeding.
I get it. It's tough.
Bleeding. It's
bro.
tough. And
I'm very angry.
I said it that, one more loss against Palace and then you have to face Liverpool. It's tough. It's tough. Like, give me a win, man. That's why that win against Fulham was so needed. Give me one win.
Yeah.
One win.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel excited for the match days, to be honest. And that's the worst that you can feel as a fan.
No, you know what? I'm genuinely worried about Palace. I am.
Of course. You have to.
Zaha will skin Azpilicueta. Zaha will skin Azpilicueta.
Elise, Eze, Zaha. You have to be scared, 100%.
Yeah. Are you as well? Don't disrespect Are you? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the other side of the coin. Come along for a ride.
And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll get some really exciting banter that
I need to follow you on. Actually, I need to follow you on Twitter.
So Drogbaba is constant everywhere. It's the Drogbaba on Instagram and Twitter, and the YouTube channel is by the name of Drogbaba.
There you go.
Named after legendary Mr. Didier Drogba, my goat, my personal favorite of all time.
What a top goat to have, bro. What a top goat.
The link is in the description, guys. Make sure you subscribe. I know the comments are going to be thrilled with you being on Drogbaba, 100%. Absolutely thrilled. It's been a great convo, great debate. And until next time, people. In a bit, people. Peace. God help us all.